Well, no doubt, Christmas just is a natural time to remember and to reflect and hopefully and maybe even gain some perspective. I'm Juno, and I'm the lead pastor here, and it is an honor to be able to share with you today a little bit about Christmas. You know, there are many, many traditions that we all have. Some of them are the same, and some of them are different. But they all pull on our heartstrings one way or another. You know, from the music to the events to the church service you may go to. Maybe it's family gatherings or hanging out with some friends. Maybe it's the food. Maybe it's too much of the food. Anyway, the list goes on, but for each of us, I'm pretty sure that our hearts are pulled. As we think through Christmas. Well, this morning, I am going to invite you to take a walk with me to reflect a little bit about Christmas past and Christmas future and where that leaves us today. Remembering our past Christmases connects with so many areas of our hearts, areas of our emotions. In fact, in Luke 2:19, we read, "But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart." Even Mary, the mother of Jesus, she was remembering. And remembering is often very good. One of my memories is when my three sisters and I snuck up into the attic and we looked at all of our unwrapped Christmas presents. Mom and Dad thought they had it secure. It's amazing what a 6-foot ladder will help you do when you're young. But anyway, there they are, all of them. And that was the year we got a bunch of games, all games. My dad must have gone shopping at his favorite store back then, Sears. And that in and of itself can be a good memory or a nightmare for some of us. Mackenzie, our daughter, was just 2 months old on her first Christmas. And we were proud, real tree people. Jesus wasn't fake. Christmas isn't about false things. God became man. God became human. He became real. And we were going to have a real Christmas tree. It's amazing when you go to seminary how you can spiritualize a lot of things. Of course. Well, then we saw that special bulletin news on TV. How fast a Christmas tree can go up in flames. And so the next day, we bought an artificial Christmas tree. And even today, I still have an artificial Christmas tree. This is it. That's about as real as it's going to get in my home this year. And then about 12 years later, Mackenzie wanted to be sure that Jesus was coming to his own birthday party, so she sent him this invitation. Mackenzie Smalley to Jesus Christ in heaven. Again, she spells like her dad. And then she wrote him the invitation on the inside. Please come and celebrate your birthday. Now, Mackenzie's a little embarrassed that when I tell her I show this, she goes, I was 12 years old, and I said that. And I think it is an absolute classic of a memory that she wanted to be sure Jesus was coming to his party. And so we all have memories, warm, positive, that just make us feel good about what happens at Christmas time. And some people love the past so much that they always try to relive them. They recreate them. In fact, at times, some people probably worship the past. They get stuck in the past. And yet I'm also convinced, folks, let's be honest, that some of you here, your pasts are not warm fuzzies in your heart. That there's pain and something's happened somewhere in your Christmases that you really just want to hit the delete button to remove some of those Christmas past. But yet somehow, some way, they just sort of come back. Not to give you a warm feeling, but to haunt you. And unless you're intentional to try to deal with those Christmas past, you'll try to do everything you can to snuff them out, to bury them, to try to erase them from your memory, and yet they are still there. Some people try to overcompensate. Christmases were so bad when you were young, you make sure your kids have everything they need, even if it's going to cost you 18 to 30% interest for the next 2 or 3 years. But in your mind, that's a good Christmas. Some people just don't want to remember the past, so they keep dreaming about Christmas future. Again, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. In fact, in the Old Testament, there's a guy called Jeremiah, and he talks about the future. Some of his words may be familiar to you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And in essence, Jeremiah was saying back in chapter 29 that he's conveying the truth about God's faithfulness and God's care and the assurance that God is going to be with the people no matter what the situation is, that God is present. And yet when it comes to Christmas and the future, it's easy to feel that Christmas will only happen when I can buy those expensive gifts for the family. When we can go on that wonderful cruise that we've been dreaming about for years. Maybe for some of you, you're thinking, oh, when I have the spouse of my dreams to come to Christmas Eve service with, then Christmas will be good. Some of you who are waiting for a child are like, when we have our new baby and we can rock in front of the Christmas tree like all the pictures and I can sing to him or her, that's when Christmas becomes real. And for some of you, you're thinking Christmas will be great when you're an empty nester, when the kids are gone and things are quiet. And so wherever you're at with the future, you're always thinking about something else that needs to happen. The bonus check that lets you buy whatever you want to buy, and that's what makes Christmas good. And so we idolize, we worship our past, we overcompensate when there's pain, or we live in la-la land about the future. And in reality, we miss God's presence for us today. And that God's present is his presence for us. And we somehow get wrapped up in the past, or we keep thinking about the future, and we forget that the presence of Jesus is what makes Christmas Christmas. So living in the presence in my life brings up my wonderful grandson, Ezra. So let's see what Ezra was trying to do this week.
Last week I cut a little bit of his hair.
He wanted nothing to do with that guy. So he made a game out of it. Playing a little peekaboo there. And when my daughter sent this to me, I thought, that's a sermon. How many of us play peekaboo with God? But anyway, and then finally, with the help of Mom and some cookies all over his face, he was able to sit down. And so really, people, you know what? Today's experiences are really tomorrow's memories. And God has given today as a blessing for us. So let's not be too focused on the past. Let us not be too idealistic about the future. But again, let us remember what we read in Matthew 1:23, that the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, God with us. God has given us the gifts of our past, even the painful ones we can learn from. God has given us hope for the future. We're not quite sure what that is, but those are gifts. But God didn't give them to us to ignore our present reality of wherever you're at, whatever's going on in your life, that God is with us. Emmanuel. That the God of creation, who created each and every one of you, is with us. And not just today, but for all of eternity. And as we lean into that gift of Jesus, it's important that we remember we need to receive that gift. I'm sure with little Ezra, tomorrow when Papa gives him some gifts, he's going to be encouraged to open them. He'll probably play with the box and not what I give him. But he needs to open it to receive it. And that's the same with the gift of Jesus. Because you're sitting here in a church service doesn't mean you've opened your heart to Jesus. Because you gave in our offering doesn't mean you've opened your heart to Jesus. Because you may help people and help your neighbor and help your kids doesn't mean you've given your heart to Jesus. Giving your heart to Jesus is simple. It's a lifelong decision, but it's a simple process of just saying, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for loving me, for forgiving me, and help me to be like you. And so that's what it means to live in the presence of the present of Jesus.